Good morning, traders. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you on Sunday, July the 10th, 2011, with a quick view of things that I'm looking at for the week of the 11th. This broadcast is brought to you by Day Trading Radio, where you can come by and check it out for a 2-week free trial, and also my options related site, optionsdelta.blogspot.com. Okay, let's take a look at the S&P. Notice that I have some additional indicators which I normally don't show, but I've been getting some feedback that maybe I could cover why I look at on balance volume, which are these green and red bars on the left here, and how I use them to trade. Okay, a number of traders that I follow as well use them, and I can see the use for same. Okay, we're looking at the S&P. We can see what range we've been in this area here. Okay, and you can see the preponderance of volume that occurred during these prices. Okay, the thing I'm looking at now is that price is nearly through this area, and that the tendency is, because the next bar up here is fairly small and the levels are commensurate with areas of previous support and resistance going back years, not just the past 3 or 4 months, that we would have a tendency to move higher. Okay, now a lot of people can look at this and say, okay, we're going to form a double top, but as I mentioned before, a double top can also look like a cup and handle if you have the selling volume, buying volume, and then what I like to see is a move a little bit higher and then a move sideways to slightly down, so you get rid of the rest of this skeptical selling volume and move higher. If we look at the NASDAQ, we can see the same thing. We start to see areas that look less susceptible to resistance. Okay, now that we're moving above these levels, and we are at the highs, we have a triple top here on NASDAQ. I would keep an eye on Apple as a leading indicator, Google, and the other big caps in the NASDAQ composite for signs that we're going to move higher. Right now I'm looking at these levels and saying, well, this looks pretty good, and it wouldn't be bad for the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Russell to form a handle. Okay, actually be very constructive. But back to these indicators, we're moving above these areas that show major resistance. Now you could also look at this as we get to higher levels, less buying volume and less selling volume comes in because traders tend to be more skeptical at tops. Okay, now looking at the Russell, which has been showing some pretty good strength, we broke out of this descending channel and we've been moving higher. Notice that the volume here is lower than these bands here, which we've moved around in this range for some time, which makes sense because that's where most of the buying and selling volume has occurred, the major portion of it anyway. Okay, so you could look at this as resistance in this area. Okay, now that we've moved above that area, we have less resistance, so you kind of get sucked up into this price. EWJ, Japan Index. Now, this is a trade I took last week on a tweet I got Doug Cass, who is a pretty well-known short for Seabreeze Capital. Anyway, he talks about Japan and the tsunami that occurred and why, with the currency at all-time highs and the market, the EWJ, oversold, it being a good time to buy. Okay, so he went long EWJ. I took the trade too. I looked at the confluence of volume in this area. I looked at this triple top here as we gap down, moving above that level, which we bounced off of on Thursday, moved lower on Friday, as an area that we could break higher into this vacuum. Okay, I because of this large amount of volume as well, you can look at this as support when I move lower. Okay, so we're above MAs. We are a little bit oversold. We're overbought, I should say, on stochastic. So just keep that in mind. But if we look at the weekly, we can see where we are here. We're above the 10 moving 10 period average. We have volume stepping up here, and there is a good possibility it's moving higher. So I took the September 11 calls. I only have 10 now. Bought them at 18 cents average, so a bit higher than where he bought. I think he bought at 13 cents, if I remember correctly. And the Benzivi article, yeah, 13 cents. Sorry. So he's a bit higher, more in the profit, but I still think this is going to move higher. Okay, so this is a trade I took on EWJ on Thursday. Many of you asked me what I was looking at on Hansen Medical. Aside from the fact I like the story behind the trade, I also read an article by Motley Fool when doing my research on free stocks approaching greatness. You can see the link here. Okay, and what really caught my attention was this portion right here. Okay, you can pause this and read it at your leisure, but basically we got the same guy who was responsible for Intuitive Surgical and Mako doing the same thing again with Hansen. Okay, so the article was stating basically that's not that complicated, it's a buy. Okay, you can do more research into what Hansen is doing, but I like the trade, and I'll be trading this going forward as this right side of this cup builds. Okay, any pullback, I'll get back into it. Currently, I see it above all of this volume here. Okay, and less resistance as we move higher. We had a small cup and handle on a 3-month basis, not really even 3 months, but I saw this as a breakout area. I bought some here, and also bought down here in the 294 range, and my IRA and my wife's IRA. I saw this sideways movement along the 50, and then we got this move higher. And notice the Bollinger Bands are moving or spreading apart, which I like to follow. Once I see this bottom Bollinger Band start to turn or flatten out, it's pretty much works the same way as relative strength. It'll show me that this momentum is waning. Okay, so Hansen, I'm still watching this. Notice that it was at this level back in 07 before we sold off heavily up in the $40 range. Okay, so I'll be trading this over the next couple of years, I would imagine, just by the move that we had down over a year and a couple of months, and we flattened out here. Notice all this volume here. Okay, now that we're moving above that, notice that we have less resistance in this area up until we hit the $13 range. Okay, so that's why I'm playing it in my IRA, and that's why I'll be trading it on the way up in my trading account. Also have a couple other traders that I noticed on StockTwits were trading this as well. So my research usually takes me to a number of places. StockTwits is usually one of the first places, and I check out what other traders are thinking about it, people who do this for a living. Seed, this is a trade I took off of this lower trend line, and we were a little off of here actually. This is like Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. I believe Mr. Land mentioned this in the room on Monday. Okay, a number of the other Chinese stocks were also moving, and we saw this move down on all of the talk about Alibaba, the scandal, and how Chinese stocks were bad to trade. There were some StockTwits articles on major traders who were saying, you know what, I'm not touching Chinese stocks, they're very risky and so forth. So you have a lot of people who didn't understand the research, just got out of their trades, and we saw this big sell-off. Okay, we stopped at the 200 period moving average, and we moved higher. So I took this. You can also look at Baidu, right? And any of the other ones, you'll see similar patterns, as well as the S&P and so forth. So It was good for some of the big cap Chinese stocks, so therefore seed looked ready for a move, and we saw some buying volume. We saw this create a pivot point. We saw oversold stochastics, and if you follow Johnny at all, you know this is many of the things that he looks at for a trade. Okay, also looked at the Fibonacci's off of this lower level, or actually I looked at it off of this high here to this low, and this 382 level being a good area of at least the first target move. But notice there's not a whole lot of volume up here until we get to this level here, okay, which is very close to 618. Okay, so do we get up to 618? It's possible. We got the 50 period moving average here. I'm already in the trade. I've been trading it for the past few days. Buy at a low and sell, you know, as this range moved up. I did have a swing for a couple of days. Got back in it on this touchdown to the 20 period moving average on Friday. So I note that this move higher, if you use the Fibonacci's here again, that we have this low, okay, to this high. Notice that we came down to 382, which is also very close to the 10 period moving average. You can use the 8 if you want, and the 20. So feeling pretty good about this move a little bit higher into Monday and Tuesday. Now what we do on a weekly, we have oversold, excuse me, you have oversold stochastics, and it looks pretty good. I don't see much resistance up to this area until we start to build into the $6.80 range. Notice this is also where we had previous resistance support. Okay, so this goes back a ways. All right, you look at the 5-year, you can see where the preponderance of selling volume will occur, or resistance. All right, so we have a number of levels that we're looking at. We have oversold stochastics on the weekly, the monthly. So that's what I'm looking at on seed. So my target is that 618 level. First target being the 382, but I think we're okay there on the daily. So keep an eye on seed for continuation in this move high. Notice there wasn't a lot of sellers on Friday, and we closed higher off this low. So I'll be watching this very closely for continuation move. I said continuation about 6 times now. Also note this volume band right here. Okay, but that's short term. If you pull out on this level, you start to see, well, this is still buying, selling. A good volume band there. So let's watch this move higher into this vacuum area here. Apple, as you would expect, we had quite a move on this as well. Notice the volume bands. All right, on daily, that we're moving up into this area here, which was previous highs. All right, it would nice to see this move up to 264, 65 area, and then build a handle before we move higher. I definitely see Apple moving higher, though. This company is not going anywhere but higher in the near term, and they just have a lot of good products. What can I say about Apple? I was also looking for this as a short at this area, but we didn't get that pullback, so I never took the trade. For you, MJ, you were talking about that in the room. I mentioned Baidu. Notice all this volume in here. I'm not taking a trade on this. Doesn't mean it can't move higher, but this is just one I haven't considered for a trade. Stochastics are oversold and moving higher. Whenever you get the stochastics split apart like this, it's just showing strength of that move, of that momentum move. We're overbought on the daily though. Okay. Moody's, I'm still short on this one. I probably should have taken the calls off, or excuse me, the puts off. Took my stop, but I was stubborn and I made a mistake. So this trade is pretty much underwater now. So, but I'm looking at this volume band. I'm looking for excuses now. I'm looking at this as a cup, or excuse me, a head and shoulders top. Notice that we hit this area here where conceivably we would have resistance and that we might move lower. We'll see. We are overbought on stochastics. This is expiration week, so we'll see what this trade happens. What happens with this? I don't have a large position in this anymore. I sold 6 of the puts. I kept 4. So I'm currently down about $280 on that particular trade, but it's a small position, so I'm not that worried about it. The puts that I took off, I was down about 50 bucks. So all in all, but I should have taken my stop. Okay. AKS Steel, a number of you are mentioning this in the room during the week. I didn't take the trade. I do note the area of influence of this volume, and these previous areas here did act as resistance, so it did pull back a little bit. Wouldn't be so bad to see this move back lower a few more days. See the volume, selling volume taper off, okay, as William O'Neill talks about over at IBD, cup and handle, and then a breakout above that level. Okay, so I'm watching AKS Steel. I'm just not in the trade right now. I'd like to see it above this level for a trade up to 1796, 18, and maybe a continuation there. Now GT is a trade that many of you know that I take, and I traded this off of the 1450 level, okay, and got out on Thursday. I posted that in the room. I got out at the open, which gave me a pretty good clear signal that it was a good idea to get out. Okay, so we saw that move higher, and when the I was looking at a shorter term time frame. Okay, we saw this pop up higher. I sold on that candle. Okay, half of my position, I noticed that the next candle was moving down and lower through the 20 on the 15 minutes, so I took my whole position off. I had a nice run up in 14, so I had 1,000 shares and did quite well, and I didn't want to, I just felt this was a level that I would see more selling, so it showed to be a good smart move, and I'm all out. GT. I'll be watching this for perhaps a move down to the 20 period moving average. Let's take a look here at the Fibonacci. So from this move, this low to this high, okay, I'm watching these areas. 382 is right at the 50. Alright, so that might be a first entry position. I'd like to see this move lower a little slower. I notice that the Bollinger Band is starting to turn. Okay, so I'll be watching this to see what occurs. Okay, notice this is starting to flatten out too. So everything is showing me that this move will probably slow down a bit, though I'm not going to bank on it. Notice the volume here, where we had that large portion of volume up at the areas where you would expect resistance. Okay. Okay, LMLP was a trade I took off of a scan with IBD. It had a nice composite rating of 80, I believe, and the earnings per share increase was quite substantial, or quarter over quarter. I think it was 2,600%. Okay, yeah, here we go. It's 82. All right, so I'm watching this. It is a group leader. Okay, it's a penny stock, not a penny stock, but a cheap stock. All right, so you have to keep that in mind. Funds have decent ownership. Profit margins are 38%. And the PE is only 11, so that's decent, okay, on a stock like this. Notice the relative strength line is moving higher, okay, as you would expect. Also notice this big cup that has formed the left side where all the selling occurred. You had smart money picking up shares here, and we're starting to move higher. Okay, weekly looks pretty good too. We're above the 10-period moving average, and I expect this to just continue higher. Okay, So if we move out a little bit more, you can see that we're working on a much larger cup, okay, on the weekly. We're overbought here, so I would see some resistance as moving higher, but this is a long trade anyway, a long swing for me anyway in my IRA. So I have 1,000 shares here too, with a stop that I've been moving up along the way. So I got into this at 274 and continue to hold. Okay, moving my stops up. That's LMLP. They're a Canadian payment processing company, I believe. You can do the research. This is another one, Racks on a daily, that I've been trading. This nice cup. I'd like to see a nice handle build here or a move above this previous level. Okay. Notice the volume up here. Okay. Spectra Energy SE. That's another trade I'm looking at. The right side of this cup building. Notice the volume. Okay, your resistance levels here that we're trading above now should be support. Okay, in here. Okay, as well as the volume bands at price. HSY, Hershey's, I like this cup and handle. I'd like to see a handle build here as well. JCP, this continues to be a nice short after, I don't know what it was, earnings. I'm not really sure. But this is a big area here for them to make it through. And we saw this move lower, stochastics moving lower as well. INFA, this is just a trade I didn't post in the room, but we had this move above this resistance level here, 52-week highs. We came back and tested it. So I'll be watching this trade for, I took some off on Friday. I'm out currently 3/4 of a position. I have a quarter left. This is also a trade I took last week during, I think it was Tuesday, on this is Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. Right, Tuesday. I got in a little early. I was looking for this to break higher, and it did on Thursday and Friday. So I'm still in this trade. I have 500 shares. I took 500 off, and I'm going to follow this up and see where this goes. Notice that there was Revlon. Let's see, was it Elizabeth Arden? Also similar pattern breakout here. Notice the volume here was tapered off, so we're above this resistance level. Came back down, retested it. Ulta, this is a move that was mentioned over at Stephen Place's site, where he was looking at this level here as a breakout. I'm still in this trade as well. Didn't post it in the room, but that's only because they weren't brought to you at Day Trading Radio, so I didn't want to mix those trades up. Okay, so that's Ulta. Again, this is Cousin Benny coming to you from my options blog site, where you can come and check out the trades that I post previous to me getting into them. The last few trades I mentioned were trades that I'm looking at or I'm already in, and also by Day Trading Radio, where you can come and check out the 2-week free trial and talk to us in the room at Day Trading Radio. So take care, remember to take profits, and we'll talk to you on Monday.